We start by chanting the four great bodhisattva vows. Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to help them all. Delusions are countless. We vow to see through them all. Opportunities to awaken are infinite. We vow to embrace them all. The Buddha way is endless. We vow to embody it. So we will begin, as usual, with our 15 minutes of seated meditation. So we'll chant the Gatha on opening the sutras. This Dharma, incomparably profound and minutely subtle, is rarely encountered even in hundreds of thousands of millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, hold and maintain it. May we completely realize the true mind of all Buddhas. Thich Nhat Hanh, when asked about the phrase engaged Buddhism, gave the response, "Is there any other kind?" And that's an interesting point. And the synapses that started clicking and, the little chemicals and electronics and electricity and all that stuff that started pinging around inside my head got me thinking about a number of things. First of all, if there were no dark, right? Like if there were no time at which point the sun actually sets, much like in Sweden right now, would we need a word for dark? I mean, if it's always light, then who needs a word for dark? Right? We wouldn't need it. Fish probably don't have a word for water on any number of levels. So if there's no other kind of Buddhism other than engaged Buddhism, then we can throw out the phrase engaged Buddhism because it's redundant, it's unnecessary. And then some more synapses started firing, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, for a bunch of people that are supposed to be really in on this non-duality thing, we do a pretty lousy job of it sometimes. We have, starting with whenever, at whatever point the Sangha started moving beyond its original geographical boundaries, things started getting separated in other ways also. We end up with Mahayana and Hinayana. That's pretty judgmental right there. Hey, we're on the greater path. You guys, the lesser path. And then you go into Tibet, and then you got Vajrayana, and it's like, yeah, you guys, you're okay, but we're on the diamond path. And then there's more subdivisions, and you end up with Chan, and then San, and then Zen, and then Tien, and then Zen again once it gets over to the West. And we're still like doing these little chopping moves. And then you get into further subdivisions. Progressive Buddhism, vegan Buddhism. There's probably a few more that I'm not even aware of. And these are all lines that we just arbitrarily set boundaries with. The Lotus Sutra talks of Ikeyana, EKA, Yana. One vehicle. I'm sure that if you went back to the original Sangha, that's probably how they would think of it. It's like, there is no other vehicle, so why even bother calling it a vehicle? It's just what we do. But then we start categorizing and coming up with all these little interesting subdivisions, most of which are probably used to make one feel superior, or at least one sect to seem superior than others, right? Said, Mahayana, Hinayana thing. I'm sure there are plenty of Tendai practitioners who think that, yeah, well, you Zen guys, you're okay and everything, but yeah, we really got it. We're esoteric, And we continue to do that. Even though, like, right from the get-go, the teachings say, no non-duality. Even go beyond non-duality. Even drop the concept of non-duality. But before you're doing that, in the meantime, on your way there, just, go with non-duality. And all these little subdivisions and all this superiority that we attach to our own sect is really just a way to perpetuate the notion of self. I am separate from you. My sect is separate from you. There's all the rest of Buddhism in the world plus one. And that's my sect. And we're better than any of you. So if not having a permanent self is one of the core teachings, and non-duality is one of the core teachings, then why do we come up with so many little subdivisions? Is it just to make ourselves comfortable? To give us something to identify with? Shouldn't need to identify with any of it. There is no permanent solid self. And that applies not only to this bag of flesh that's sitting here flapping its lips right now, but there is no solid, substantial, permanent Zen. There is no permanent, substantial Mahayana. There's no permanent, substantial Hinayana. There's no permanent, substantial Buddhism. Buddhism itself is a concept. If you go back to the original Sangha, again, I don't even think they thought of it as Sangha plus one, with the one being the Buddha. It was probably just the Sangha. And they probably didn't even bother calling themselves that. It was probably other people that referred to them that way. If the sun never sets, you don't need a word for dark. If you're in a community of practitioners, you don't need a word for those who aren't part of that community of non-practitioners. When I was first starting to meditate, I was sitting there and I was with a group, and we sat facing the wall. And one of the first things that I noticed, or one of the things I noticed fairly early on, is probably more accurate, was that with my half open eyes in a darkened room, staring at a wall upon which my shadow was being cast, I really couldn't quite tell where eyelid ended and, sight of wall began. It was really just sort of this gray thing that my eyes were perceiving. And the dividing line between lid and wall was really tough to establish. When, as practitioners, we try and impose that line between lid and wall just to give ourselves some sort of sense of permanence, of self, of identification, we're missing a prime level of practice. We're really missing it if, the vegan Buddhist starts an argument with the omnivore Buddhist. When we put ourselves in competition with each other, another sect, go beyond the walls of the Dharma room and put ourselves in the situation with other people that we might come in contact on any given day, it's the same thing. We're setting ourselves separate, if not from everything else, than individual bits that comprise everything. There is no other kind of Buddhism. And I'm not even going to say what kind that is. Johnson gave us a talk a few months ago, probably now, that was titled, "Don't Be a Bodhisattva." Because if you identify as a bodhisattva, you're separating yourself from the rest of the sentient beings of whom you're supposed to be saving/helping. Even though the Diamond Sutra says, yeah, there's no bodhisattvas, there's no sentient beings, there's no saving to be done. Yeah, we'll gloss over that and just talk about how there's bodhisattvas and there's sentient beings. The practice is to be that sort of vague, gray, kind of indecipherable melange of gray eyelid and gray wall, where there's really no separation apparent. There is no separation apparent. We don't have to act like what I have come to call adjective Buddhists. fill in the blank. Buddhist, vegan, omnivore, Democrat, Republican, green, yellow, whatever before the word Buddhist. The practice needs no adjectives. The practice barely needs a noun. It makes it convenient for us to talk about. But beyond that, we can pretty much drop it. Like right now, I don't really have to say the word Zen in one of these talks because we're in a situation where we have other Zen practitioners. So, I don't really have to set it aside as something else. It's just I'm talking about things and they happen to be coming from a Zen perspective and it's all good. But we don't need to set aside any other sect or type of Buddhism or practitioner of some other form or practitioner of some other religion or any of those other things because those divisions don't exist. They are characterized by shunyata, emptiness, openness, however you want to refer to that. They're illusion. So, if nothing else, here we are at the end of 2022, moving into the year 2023 in short order. And if nothing else, if we can dedicate ourselves to the idea of dropping adjectives when referring to Buddhism, and then perhaps dropping the adjectives when we move on to other things, that sounds like a pretty good resolution to me. All right, we will go back to our next 15 minutes of seated meditation. We'll chant the Heart Sutra. Mahaprajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply the Paramita, perceives that all five skandhas are empty and is saved from all suffering and distress. Shariputra, all dharma from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. That which is form is emptiness. That which is emptiness, form. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness. Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They do not appear or disappear, are not tainted or pure, do not increase or decrease. Therefore in emptiness, no form, no feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of eyes, and so forth, until no realm of mind consciousness, no ignorance, and also no extinction of it, and so forth, until no old age and death, and also no extinction of them, no suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, also no attainment, with nothing to attain. The bodhisattva depends on prajnaparamita, and the mind is no hindrance. Without any hindrance, no fears exist. Far apart from every perverted view, one dwells in nirvana. In the three worlds, all Buddhas depend on prajnaparamita and attain anuttara samyak sambodhi. Therefore know that prajnaparamita is the great transcendent mantra, is the great light mantra, is the utmost mantra, is the supreme mantra, which is able to relieve all suffering and is true, not false. So proclaim the prajnaparamita mantra. Proclaim the mantra which says Gate Gate Para Gate Parasamgate Bodhisattva Gate Gate Para Gate Parasamgate Bodhisattva Gate Gate Para Gate Parasamgate Bodhisattva. We'll do our personal dedications of merit. I will have a couple of names, and if you have anyone you'd like to add, I will leave you a space to do that. All sentient beings are one seamless body and pass quickly from birth to death. We remember those who cared for us and are gone, those who are ill, those who are at war, who are hungry and who are in pain. May they heal and have peace. We especially dedicate our service to Mike Gingy Wood, Mrs. Kanti Pereira, Joanne, Kevin, and Bailey Sheridan. Anyone you would like to add in?
Juanita.
Anyone else?
In memory of all those who passed at Wounded Knee, coming up on the anniversary of the massacre, and in honor of all those who fought back.
All beings in the 10 directions, subject to the greed, hatred, and delusions of themselves and others. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Mahaprajna Paramita. Do our faith in practice vow. I will never retreat and will be firm in my mind in this correct Dharma. I will escape from the samsaric cycle of birth and death and definitely will see my original faith. I will be sure to inherit the life of insight of the Buddha and save all sentient beings. Briar, would you give us the gratitude gatha?
Infinite realms of light and dark convey the Buddha mind. Birds and trees and stars and we ourselves come forth in perfect harmony. We practice and recite this for all beings, in grateful thanks to our many guides along the way.
Life and death are of supreme importance. Time passes swiftly by and opportunities to awaken are easily lost. Strive to realize your true nature. Do not squander your time by night or day. And thank you for joining us this evening.